Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. In the previous lecture, we actually studied the factors which influence the hyperfine coupling constant. In that, I told you that there are three factors which actually influence the hyperfine coupling constant. The first factor is Fermi contact. The second factor is the spin polarization. And the third factor which we have to discuss today, that is dipolar coupling. The previous two factors, that is Fermi contact and spin polarization, these two factors, they are isotropic entities. That is, what does that mean? These two are isotropic entities or quantities, we can say entities. That means they actually do not depend on the orientation of the molecule or the orbital in which the odd electron is present. However, this is an anisotropic entity. That means this dipolar coupling, it actually varies with the direction of the molecule or the direction of the orbital or the orientation of the orbital in which the unpaired electron is present. So today we will discuss this dipolar coupling. Dipolar coupling. It is the third factor which actually influences the hyperfine coupling constant. Okay, so this how actually this came into existence. It was seen that the experimental values of the hyperfine coupling constant, they were not in agreement with the calculated values which we were calculating on the basis of Fermi contact and spin polarization. That is, when the anisotropic effect was not taken into consideration, at that time the experimental values were varying with respect to the calculated values. So the scientists thought that there might be some another thing which is also contributing to this hyperfine coupling constant, and then this phenomenon was discovered, dipolar coupling. How? They take a molecule like NO2 positive. It is a linear molecule. So if it is a linear molecule, that means it has axial symmetry. Okay, it will have axial symmetry. When this has an axial symmetry, that means, for example, I will write like this: NO2 positive. Okay, so if this has axial symmetry, that means it can have one axis like this, which is C infinite, and it has also one axis, this one. It has symmetry along this axis also, and it has symmetry along this axis also. Okay, so it is axial and symmetry. When this molecule was actually fixed in some solid matrix, why it was fixed in the solid matrix? It was actually fixed in the solid matrix so that it will not tumble in the matrix. So it was fixed in that so as to make it a rigid system. Then this hyperfine coupling constant was measured. It was seen that along the different coordinates it was varying. The hyperfine coupling constant was varying when we measure it along x-axis, y-axis or z-axis. On that basis, they found that there is some quantity which is anisotropic in nature. That means that is depending on the orientation of the molecule or the orientation of the orbital in which the unpaired electron is present in this molecule. Okay, so they found that since there are two type of things. One is nuclear spin and another is electronic spin. When the system is rigid, that means when the system is in some is fixed in some solid matrix, what happens? These two, the nuclear spin and the electron spin, since they produce magnetic field, they behave like tiny magnets. Behave like tiny magnets. So what happens when they behave like tiny magnets? What will there happen? They will actually couple each other. That is called dipolar coupling. That means the magnetic dipole produced by the nuclear spin and the electronic spin, that will couple each other and form dipolar, generate dipolar coupling, and that dipolar coupling or you can say the dipolar interaction between these two tiny magnets depends not only on the distance between the two spins, distance between the two spins, but also on the orientation of these magnets, these tiny magnets, with respect to the applied field. Since this whole phenomenon, that is hyperfine splitting, this whole phenomenon is occurring in presence of the applied magnetic field. It has been seen that if the two nuclear spins are in close vicinity to each other, they behave like tiny magnets and they couple with each other. And this type of interaction does not depend only on the distance between the two kinds of spin, that is nuclear spin and electronic spin, but also it depends on the orientation of these spins. That means it depends on the orientation of the molecule. If molecule's orientation, the molecular orientation changes, that means the orientation, electronic orientation, the spin of the electron or nucleus, that can also vary. So with respect to the external magnetic field, these spins will also vary with the orientation of the molecule. So this actually gives rise to this anisotropic effect in case of dipolar coupling. Okay, so it has been seen that since the orientation of the nuclear spin, is influenced by orientation of the nuclear spin, actually depends on the direction of applied magnetic field, on the direction of applied magnetic field which we apply externally, magnetic field. So the orientation of the nuclear spin in case of that molecule, that depends on the direction of the applied magnetic field. However, the electronic spin, orientation of the electronic spin depends on the orbital, on that orientation of the orbital, in which actually the odd electron is present, and also on the orientation of the molecule, because the orientation of the molecule will also influence the orientation of the orbital in which the unpaired electron is present. Okay, so there can be, how we will understand it by taking some example how actually these anisotropic effects are being generated in case of dipolar coupling. For example, we will take an example. We have a carbon nucleus. Okay, carbon nucleus, carbon 13 nucleus. It is a magnetically active nucleus, and on this nucleus we have a p orbital in which the odd electron is present. Okay, our odd electron is in this p orbital. Since I will write it pz orbital. Okay, in this pz orbital we have this odd electron, and this is the applied magnetic field in the same direction, along z direction. I will write bz. It is in the z direction, and our p orbital is also aligned in the same direction. Okay, since this carbon has a magnetic nucleus, carbon 13, it has a magnetic nucleus, it will produce its own magnetic field. The magnetic flux will be like this. It will, magnetic lines of force will emanate like this from this magnet, tiny magnet. Okay, so there will be several lines like this which will be emanating from this C13 nucleus. So you can see since the lines are emanating in this direction, and here the direction will be downwards, here also the direction will be downwards, but when they are again entering in this direction, they are upwards and upward in direction. So along this pz orbital, the magnetic flux of this C13 nucleus is reinforcing the applied magnetic field along this pz orbital. The magnetic flux by this C13 nucleus, it is in the same direction as that of the applied magnetic field. However, the magnetic flux, the magnetic lines of force, they are in opposite direction. They are opposing the applied magnetic field here and here. Okay, so if there are other lines, like we can take like this, many lines, several lines of magnetic lines will be here. So in this portion there is some positive contribution because they are actually reinforcing the applied magnetic field, but when they come down, they actually oppose the applied magnetic field. So as a result, we can represent it like we can show it like this. That means I will show it again. We can show it, for example, this is a C13 nucleus. On this we have a pz orbital in which there is the electron. We can show that inside these cones there is the magnetic flux. Actually, they reinforces the applied magnetic field. Inside these cones, that means this cone and this cone, they actually, inside these, the magnetic flux actually reinforces the applied magnetic field. So there is positive coupling between the electron and the applied magnetic field, or with the nuclear magnetic lines of the nucleus. Okay, but outside this there is the magnetic flux created by this C13 nucleus that actually opposes this applied magnetic field. So there is negative coupling between these magnetic lines and this applied magnetic field. That is why we show this as negative and this portion as positive. Okay. Since the pz orbital comes to wholly in this region of positive coupling, so here the interaction between the nuclear spin and the electronic spin will be maximum. As a result, the hyperfine coupling constant will be higher. Okay. Now the second situation can arise, like for example, we have a carbon on this, the p orbit, we have a p electron is in our, the odd electron is in the py orbital. For example, py orbital. Here also we have, because of this C13 nucleus, there will be magnetic flux that will be positive inside these cones, but positive in these cones and negative outside. So the py orbital wholly comes in the negative part of this magnetic flux. So here there will be an interaction between the effective field here will be less. That will be, there will be the, with respect to, because it is opposing in this region, it is opposing the applied magnetic field. So what happens, where in this region the total magnetic field will be less, so there will be less interaction between this nuclear spin and the magnet produced by the nuclear spin and that of the electronic spin. There will be less interaction between these. And similarly, if we have the third situation where the p orbital is in the px orbital, the odd electron is in the px orbital. Px orbital is like, it is half inside and half outside of this plane. So what here also this portion is positive, but it comes in the negative portion of the magnetic flux, so there will be less interaction between the this nuclear spin and the electronic spin. So as a result, what will happen, the value which we got from here, the hyperfine coupling constant in terms of dipolar coupling, which we will get here, that will be higher as compared to this one and this one. And it was found that the contribution from this one is double to that of these two and opposite in sign. For example, if it has B, it is 2B. Okay, so this is twice of twice that of this, and opposite sign. For example, these are minus B because there is the orbital in which the odd electron is present that falls in the negative portion of this magnetic flux. So they are written as minus B, and this will be plus 2B because here is the electron, the orbital in which the electron is present, that is wholly in the positive region of the magnetic flux produced by this C13 nucleus. Okay. So again, we can take one more example. Like we have another example in which the unpaired electron is in the p orbital of carbon, but the magnetic nucleus is on hydrogen. Okay, here we will see how it will behave. For example, we have this applied magnetic field in the z direction. We will write as Bz. Okay, so carbon has a p orbital. Firstly, I will write in pz orbital, for example. So electron is in this, and the magnet will be produced by this hydrogen magnetic flux. So this magnetic flux will be similarly as in case of the earlier example. It will be like this. That means with respect to the applied magnetic field, the magnetic flux will be positive in this portion and in this portion, and in this region it will be negative. Okay, So what will happen, since this carbon p orbital, it has some interaction with these positive regions. If I will show it closer to this, for example, I will show it here. Pz orbital, it has some interaction with the positive portions of this magnetic flux produced by the hydrogen nucleus. But so here will be interaction will be between the electron and the magnetic field produced by this electron and that of the magnetic field produced by the proton in this hydrogen. Okay. So there will be some considerable positive value of this hyperfine coupling constant contribution through dipolar coupling. And but if for example we have this magnetic nucleus hydrogen, this is the positive portion of flux, okay, and for example our carbon is present here, that means our odd electron is in the py orbital, okay. If our odd electron is present in the py orbital, what will happen, the electron, the orbital which has the odd electron comes wholly in the positive region. So in this direction, if the orbital has py direction, it is in the y coordinate axis, then that very time there will be very high and dipolar coupling between the magnetic field produced by the electron and that of the hydrogen nucleus. And the third situation can arise where you have hydrogen and it produces the magnetic flux which is positive in this portion and negative in this portion, and our carbon is like, our carbon has this px orbital, that is px orbital is like half inside the board and half outside, okay. So here also the whole orbital, like the orbital is in this orientation, the whole px orbital will be in the negative plane of this. So there will be less interaction between the magnetic field produced by the odd electron and that of the hydrogen nucleus. So from this you can actually guess that how the dipolar coupling depends, this dipolar type of interaction between the nuclear spin and electronic spin, how it depends on the orientation of the molecule, or the, here we took some example where we kept the molecule fixed, that means the molecule is not tumbling, and that is why we were able to show the orientation of the orbital. Otherwise, if the molecule was tumbling, then there is not the possibility to show the orientation of these px, py or pz orbitals. So this is a controlled condition where we have kept the molecule in the fixed condition, and then we are showing that this is px, this is py, and this is pz, this is pz, this is py, or this is px, and on that basis we found that the value of this dipolar coupling varies, okay. So here you can see that since there is some interaction between this pz orbital and the positive part of this magnetic flux, so here the value of b will be, b is the anisotropic component of this hyperfine coupling constant, which will be contributed by this dipolar coupling, because dipolar coupling is actually contributing anisotropic component to the hyperfine coupling constant, okay. The isotropic contribution is by this Fermi contact and spin polarization, but the anisotropic component is introduced by this dipolar coupling. So here and that is designated by B. This anisotropic contribution is designated by B. So B will be here positive because there is some this interaction between the two, but it will be less since the orbital is not wholly coming in this under the influence of this positive magnetic flux, but here it is coming wholly in. So here we can write BZZ is positive because it is in the Z direction. BZZ is positive, but it is less. But this BYY will be positive and large, very large, because here the Py orbital is wholly coming under the influence of the magnetic flux produced by this proton. Here also Bx will be negative because it is coming in the negative part of the this magnetic flux which is produced by this hydrogen nucleus. Okay, negative because it is actually opposing the magnetic flux produced by the applied magnetic field. Fine. So this is in case the molecule is fixed, or for example, now we have some systems where you have the molecules are tumbling very fast, like we have in case of gaseous or solution phase sample. Solution phase samples. What will happen in these cases if our molecule is in solution phase or in gaseous phase? What will happen? The molecule will tumble. So what will happen? The anisotropic, then the anisotropic component will vanish. Okay, so the total hyperfine coupling constant will be wholly and solely that of the isotropic component. That will be the contribution from the Fermi contact and the spin polarization, and in that case the dipolar coupling will contribute 0 in case of these, when the molecule is in the gaseous or solution phase, when actually the molecule is tumbling. Okay, also if we have in powder samples in powder, phase. Okay, in a powder phase we have small crystals, and you can see the molecules can have a range of orientations and a range of angles with respect to the principal coordinates will be possible there. As a result, there will be a varying range of this hyperfine coupling constant because of this dipole coupling is anisotropic. It depends on the orientation. As a result, what happens in the EPR spectrum, the signals which we get, they are very broad. They are very broad because this hyperfine coupling constant that time does not show discrete values. They show a range of values because the sample has a long range of angles in which they are oriented with respect to the applied magnetic field. Okay, so now here you actually understood how this dipolar coupling is contributing to the anisotropic component to this hyperfine coupling constant. Actually this was the component which we were lagging when we were actually calculating the total hyperfine coupling constant. And now we can write the total hyperfine coupling constant. You can write as A total. A is the hyperfine coupling constant. A total you can write as A iso, that means A isotropic, that is the contribution from the Fermi contact and that of the spin polarization, plus B aniso. Yeah, that means the B value which we get through the anisotropic component, that is through the dipolar coupling. This will be the total this hyperfine coupling constant. And here you can see, for example, we have a system where there is some anisotropy. Okay, the molecule is oriented in some direction with respect to the principal coordinates. So there can be various values for this B aniso depending on the orientation, and but the extreme values will be B parallel and B perpendicular. When the B when our orbital in which the unpaired electron is present, that is in the direction of the applied magnetic field, that is in the Z direction. At that very time we will calculate the B value, that will be B parallel. Okay, in fact it is higher, almost double to that of B perpendicular, and opposite in sign also. And when the p orbital in which our p orbital or the orbital in which we have the electron, that is perpendicular to the applied magnetic field, that is perpendicular to the applied magnetic. For example, this is the applied magnetic field Bz, and if our orbital in which we have the, for example, I will take carbonate as example. For example, we have Pz orbital. Here the orbital has same direction as that of applied magnetic field. It will be the hyperfine coupling due to the dipolar coupling will be represented by this B parallel. And when it is perpendicular to the applied magnetic field, for example, the orbital is like this, or the orbital is like this, px, or this py. Px will be half inside the plane, half outside the plane. At that very time, the anisotropic component will be represented by B perpendicular, and these will be the extreme values. For the least value will be in case of B perpendicular, and the highest value will be in case of B parallel. And if the orbital has some intermediate orientation with respect to the B order, for example, the orientation can be in this, like this, or it can be like this, then at that very time there will be intermediate values of these B anisotrope, and those will be in between B parallel and B perpendicular. As a result, what will happen? The total value of this hyperfine coupling constant, total hyperfine coupling constant, will also have two extreme values, that is A parallel and A perpendicular. Because when this B parallel, we have this B as B parallel, that time A total will be A iso plus B parallel, that time this will be called as A parallel. So we can have a range of A total depending on the orientation of the molecule or the orbital in which the electron is present, but the extreme values will be A parallel and A perpendicular. A parallel will be highest, A perpendicular will be lowest in value. Okay, so when we have, so we can write here, for example, we have the component of this total hyperfine coupling constant A in the x direction. It will be written as A iso, or simply A iso means the isotropic contribution to this A iso. I will write A only plus Bxx. So the total hyperfine coupling constant in the x coordinate will be A, that means the contribution from the isotropic component, plus B, that means an isotropic component, but along the x coordinate, because it depends on the direction. It does not depend on the direction, okay, or the orientation. Then we will write Ayy is equal to, it is also A plus Byy, because this A thing will not change with respect to the orientation of the molecule or the orbital, so it will remain A, but B will change, that we will write in Byy, because it is along y coordinate, and Azz will be equal to A plus Bzz. Okay, On this basis, we can actually calculate bxx. Bxx is equal to axx minus a, and byy is equal to ayy minus a, and bzz is equal to azz minus a. Okay, so how we will find this a? For example, we have a system where there is no anisotropic contribution, and when there is no anisotropic, when there is no anisotropic contribution, that means the dipolar coupling factor is 0. So that means there are only two factors which are influencing the total hyperfine coupling, or that is Fermi content and spin polarization. At that very time, this bxx, byy and bzz will be 0, because total hyperfine coupling constant along x direction will be only this a, because there is no anisotropy, so this bxx, byy, bzz they will be 0. So as a result, what we will write? We write axx plus ayy plus azz is equal to a plus a, that means thrice a. Okay, it implies that a is equal to axx plus ayy plus azz divided by 3. Okay, so if we know the values of axx, ayy and azz, on that basis we can easily calculate the a value, that means the contribution from the isotropic components. And from this, if we came to know about a, then we can also calculate these values bxx, byy and bzz. For example, axx, ayy, azz is given, and from this we can get the value of a, and then easily we can calculate the values of bxx, byy and bzz. That means the anisotropic components will be calculated from these two values. Okay, so now